In this training, we're going to talk about developing core stability. We need core stability to keep our bodies moving strong, and to work effectively, we must balance the deep and superficial muscles to make this happen. So I'm going to go to a familiar exercise, the Pilates hundreds. Lying down here, this is where we pump our arms for warming up, relaxing the shoulders here. So before we come up into the curl, I don't want to just lift here. If I'm lying down and I say lift up to the curl, what happens? It's all rectus abdominis. It's that superficial layer only. Okay, so now when I use the breath, let's try turning on that transverse first and then coming up. So we're inhaling. This time we're feeling the ribs opening up. On the exhale, now I'm going to bring my hands down. Draw the waistline in softly. Feel that deep core. You shouldn't see any pouching or any pooching here. And then we're going to lift up to come up to that curl. Did we feel that difference there? And slowly come down. Much more controlled, much more deeper focus before the superficial turns on. Inhale again. Gentle lift through the pelvic floor. Transverse turns on. And then we come up to that curl. Right? So we're getting that stability first before we come up and lower that down. Now let's try that movement here with a little more movement of the legs. Right leg is coming up. Left leg follows. Now from here, we're going to inhale. On the exhale, deepen, lifting through the pelvic floor, turn that transverse, and then we're going to come up to the curl hold. Right leg comes in and switch, left leg comes in. Now, if I wasn't turning on that deep core, what's going to happen here is you're going to see this. And this is the movement that we don't want, right? I'm showing you here that instability. Now go slow, that core is turned on. And now we have that control and that awareness of the movement pattern, right? Yes, it's burning here. You want to look at the belly so the cervical spine's in line. And return. Let me show you a side lying position here. So that transverse turns on in all ranges of motion, all planes of motion. We're going to walk the feet forward and we're going to lift from the rib cage here. Now, picking up the top leg, if I told you just to kick the leg forward and back, right? I'm exaggerating my movement here. What's happening? My whole upper body is moving out of control. Now, if I take the leg up, stabilize, I want you to inhale as the leg kicks forward. On the exhale, lift through the pelvic floor, turn on that transverse, squeeze the glute and press back for 2 pulses. Okay, now that core is turned on. Flexing the foot forward and press back. 1 pulse now back. 2 kicks front. 1, 2, turn on that waist, squeeze the glute. So what happens if that transverse here is not turned on? You're going to see a lot of movement through the pelvis and the torso. We only want movement through the leg. So in Pilates, we talk about precision, right? And movement patterns. And here's one. If I didn't turn on that deep before the superficial, this would be what's happening. And guess what? It's shearing in my low back. So I don't want you to try that. And it's moving my rib cage forward, right? And back, restricting my breathing. So thinking again of how important that transverse is. When you go into any side bending, same thing here. If I'm going to come to the side, right? Obliques are working on this lower side. You're feeling a stretch on this side. But that transverse is supporting around the spine to help, right? So it's not just visually that you can see a muscle turning on. You have to think about that. So again, developing core stability, it's that feed forward move where you have that deep muscle turning on milliseconds before. But unfortunately, sometimes what happens is that muscle just turns on, whenever it wants or when it has stress or trauma in the body. We want to think about it turning on when we're going through movements that need that stability. Here's another one I'm going to show you, lifting the leg. So again, you're in all ranges of motion. When you go through your Pilates practice, always focusing on alignment and posture. So here we're inhaling. I'm exhaling, scooping the belly. I like to say like I'm lifting up a marble with the belly button. Now that's going to turn that transverse on here in this all fours position. When I'm down on the floor, in a hip bone wants to be anchored to that mat, thinking of in this position, staying neutral, scooping up the belly button like you're lifting up the floor. Now I'm going to feel that contraction there. So notice if I'm seated, if I'm lying down, forward or back, supine or prone, I could still feel that transverse on. Okay, so we're going to inhale. Let me show you a little extension. Exhale to lift up. And then return. And lifting up. And return. So when you have those deeper muscles turning on before the larger muscle groups, you'll actually see it. You'll see the control that you have, and it's not a jerking movement, right, or out of control. If you do feel that jerking movement, that's time to slow it down, right? Go a little slower, maybe make your range of motion smaller and get that stability first. The stability is always number one to keep your body safe and strong. And when you're going through everyday life, think of the same thing, right? If you're picking something up on the floor, right, or leaning to pick up a towel, make sure you're not just going down quick and flying right back up because it's going to go right to your back, right, or right to your neck. Usually it's something silly we do. I have a lot of like reaching over to get my purse and then the shoulder has an ache and pain later on. So can we open up with that rotation, then reach for it? So think of your everyday movements and how you're stabilizing the core, making that movement happen.